Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS. I'm your host, Artem, and of course, we have our co-hosts here today, Lorena Creole. How are you today, Lorena?
Oh, I am doing great. And I'm so glad to be here with you and with all of you watching now, and those of you who be watching the replay.
Absolutely, everybody. We are ladies of the PGS, and on today's show, we have a lot of interesting topics, things that are going on now. Hello to everybody in the chat, especially Tom Jr. Jackson, the moderator, Mike.
Yes.
We are all goof people. So, welcome everybody to the show. And Lorena, oh my goodness, I had such a great time last week. I took my mom to see a movie called Violent Night. I knew from the title, even I knew from the title that there would
hmm
be violence, involved in this. It certainly wasn't anything that I was shocked about. But what I found so incredible was how much I enjoyed this film. Um, you know,
Hmm.
I have to tell you, you and I have been talking about, movies and reviews, and we do all this stuff every day. But I
Right.
was so pleased as punch to see how wonderful it was. And it reminded me of Home Alone, Die Hard, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation all rolled up into one,
Wow.
Lorena. Yeah, I just was so happy, seeing this. And sometimes nowadays you go into a film, you don't really know what to expect.
True.
Um, but this was absolutely amazing. And let me just see if I can share the screen with everybody here, get my act together. Violent Night. They do tell you what happens in it. There's sort of a storyline behind it, and obviously you can see right there from the poster and everything.
hmm
It obviously involves Santa straight up
Yeah,
from the get-go. That is Santa.
exactly. Yeah.
Santa does look a little different in this picture, doesn't he?
Yeah, Santa looks like he's had a rough night.
Yeah, I mean, we see, you and I talk about movies that talk about Santa, and this one
hmm
specifically, Lorena, addresses the lore of Santa. And of course, there are different interpretations about the lore of Santa. And
hmm
obviously, this film is very unique, but Santa is badass in this film, Lorena. So I did just kind of want to ask you, since it decided to address, specifically the lore of Santa, like, what are your thoughts about a film that's going to take that on? Because they didn't have to do that, but they did. What do you think about that? And what are your thoughts about films, trying to create the fantasy and the lore of Santa for us?
One, I love these types of films, especially when it comes to Santa Claus. There's different, I guess some people have different interpretations of Santa. However, it all goes back to I'll say although it turns out it was a real person, legend of Saint Nicholas. Now, I believe in like the first century AD or something like that, there was this family. I think it was just the father. The mother was no longer living, and they had like several daughters, and they had to have a dowry in order to get married. Well, this family was very, very poor. And this man, who was now St. Nicholas, actually was quite well off. And what he did was very anonymously put a bunch of money in a sock and left it at their house. They didn't even know who it was. It was enough money for the dowry. So from what I understand, that's where the Saint Nick legend came from. And it seems to be people kind of seem to forget that's where it kind of all stems from. Leaving presents, being a not you know who did it, but it's like how do they do that? And back in that period of time, there weren't very many wealthy people like that. So I love that they took it on. I love these types of movies because you always are going to have the nice, like Santa Claus is coming to town, the very nice, polite Santa, movies and everything.
Yeah.
I love the ones that kind of say, okay, let's get real, like the specials where you have the Simpsons. Simpsons Christmas specials. My favorite, the Married with Children Christmas episodes, especially when Al Bundy had to play Santa Claus because the mall Santa fell on the roof of their house and died. So he had to pretend to be Santa for the kids in the neighborhood. I'm not going to spoil it, but holy crap, that was so funny.
Absolutely, Lorena. I mean, it's so important when we see these depictions of Santa during the holidays. And that goes for whether you actually celebrate Christmas or not. It's
Mm-hmm.
become such a part of our culture that, I can't imagine, any other way of interpreting or even seeing, Santa, to be honest with you. But I
Mm-hmm.
have to say, and then of course, as I said, this poster advertisement is telling you very clearly that
Mm-hmm.
something's happening here. But the playfulness of the candy cane that he's kind of, you know, munching on tells you he loves sweets. But
Mm-hmm.
Santa is badass in this film. And, I didn't know what to expect. Something that's really interesting is that they teach us about the importance of family and Christmas spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that in Guardians of the Galaxy. This film stars David Arbor from, Stranger Things fame, but it also
Right.
has John Leguizamo, who we know from so many films as the villain. Even
Mm-hmm.
Beverly D'Angelo is in this. It's quite an interesting cast,
Mm.
well balanced, but they managed to keep the focus on the importance of family and Christmas. Why is that important for us to see, even in a movie called Violent Night?
Well, one of the things about Christmas is being with your family, being with those who love you and accept you for who you are, even if it's an adopted family, even if it's your urban family, your friends, and you kind of cobble together and you just, become that family. That is the crux of what the Christmas season is about. And that's something that we expect to see. We expect to see this aspect of family, even with Santa Claus, his family, him, Mrs. Claus, and all the elves. We expect that, you know, the love that they have for each other. And then you see the love that families have for each other. That's very important and a very human thing to latch onto for this season. So that's why it's so important.
I agree, and I'm sorry this the cleaning people are here, and I hope you can't hear that in the background. But you know what else is really interesting about this movie, Lorena, is that it is rated R. So this is legitimately a film that's meant for adults. It's an
Mm-hmm.
action Christmas film, which is how it was described.
Right.
Um, and for me, sometimes when I see a film like this during the holidays, especially films with action, it helps me to release holiday stress. We know that the holidays can be a stressful time, guys. We
Yes.
know those of you watching this, everybody has different issues that they're going through, like their mom blowing her nose while you're trying to do a recording. But um, I mean, there's all sorts of stressful things happening. And, part of why we like to be on here is to kind of talk things out. But what I also think is very interesting is for me, when I see a film like this where there are physical violence and, like very similar to a Home Alone vibe, it helps me to release a little bit of this holiday stress. And so, what I think is very interesting, Lorena, do you think, as adults, we do need these mature themed films like this? And to see this kind of release, do you think it is actually helpful? I mean, do you find it helpful? Have you heard anything from people about kind of seeing this and just being able to say, okay, yeah, okay, I get that. I understand that. What are your thoughts about that?
I have thoughts, and I'll give you two films actually as an example. One of the reasons why National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is so funny is because Clark does everything to be optimistic. It's going to be a great Christmas, with family and being together, and all of the crap just starts happening until he finally just snaps. And in the movie, he asks his father, I think it's Don. No, was it Ralph Bellamy? I think it was Ralph Bellamy. No, Don Amici, I think, who played his dad. And he's just like, Dad, how'd you get through the holidays? And he said, I had a lot of help from Jim Beam. And that's exactly what he said. So that's what, because that's like the reality. It's like you have to have this perfect Christmas. So the kids know this perfect. And the kids, they just see that it's perfect. They have no idea how many parents stayed up to I don't know how long trying to figure out instructions to put this stuff together and praying it doesn't fall apart when their kids see it. Praying everyone likes their gifts, praying people are going to leave exactly when they said they were going to leave and not stay until the next month. All of that realistic stress, the in-laws, they don't like each other. The kids are like, can't grandma just leave their presents and go? It's you don't see that. So it's seeing films like this is kind of like, yeah, we all kind of feel that way. And speaking of Santa, there was a movie last year with Mel Gibson in it called Fat Man, where Santa's just like, yeah, he took like buckshot to like his side because somebody shot him at his sleigh, and he's just like, it's just getting just crazy ridiculous. And in order to dull the pain, he's got like I think like he had like a literally not, yeah, a bottle of Jack Daniels, which he mixed that with 2 Alka-Seltzer in it. I really do think that we do need these. Again, they're not for children. They're for adults to basically say, okay, you know what? I'm not the only person who feels this kind of stress. In the end, is it worth it? Usually. But let's be realistic. It's not, the holidays on the whole are not just, easy, poof, everything is just perfect and just works out that way. Sometimes the turkey gets overcooked so that when you slice into it, it deflates like a balloon. I mean, sometimes that happens to people. And you have to wind up going to the Chinese restaurant for Christmas dinner.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And these are things that happen during the holidays, and you just have to keep going with it, and just stay strong. For those of you I know who are out there with the stressful holiday season, we
Mhm.
hear you, and we understand here. And there was this article published by Mike Reyes and Cinema Blend, talking about 4 reasons why David Harbour is his new favorite Santa. And of course, there he is
Hmm.
there. And I'm not necessarily going to go ahead and talk about all the reasons, but as I said, the Santa is incredibly kick-ass. Like, this is the most unusual thing that I've seen in a while. It certainly is something that made me believe in the spirit of Christmas, Lorena. I actually came out of this wanting to sing Christmas carols. And he goes on to say that the Santa appreciates a good bourbon as much as a quality Christmas cookie. And we got that sense with the candy cane in his mouth,
Hmm.
kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get drop off gifts. But while I'm here, why not grab a cookie? Although I think maybe the Santa might be lactose intolerant, but I could be wrong. Um,
I think was that in the Santa Claus?
yeah, maybe.
I think
Um,
so.
because every time he tried to drink milk, he was like, but maybe it was not milk. It could have been almond milk. I get that. They
Mhm.
talk about how its Violent Night origin story gets appropriately dark. So, guys, if you want something mature, if you want something that
Mhm.
certainly does have that, I think it's interesting. And, this is one of the first times, that I think they really are kind of showing Santa's abilities, and maybe not the first film we've ever seen, but this lore that they have followed with what he's doing. It's great. It really is unique. But I did just want to mention it and because it is
Mhm.
that time of season, guys. And if you are looking for a film to see, this is certainly one you might want to consider watching. Lorena and I did a show on it was Toxic Male Appreciation, right, Lorena?
Mhm. Yes, it
um,
was.
the
Mhm.
wonderful Toxic Male Christmas movies. So do check that out on Lorena's channel, guys.
Mhm.
It is absolutely wonderful. And now I want to switch gears, Lorena, to talk about someone who has had a huge impact on Hollywood. Um, and of course, I'm talking about one of the best costume designers in Hollywood today,
Mhm.
a woman by the name of Ruth Carter. Now, we all have heard of Ruth Carter before because she happens to be the incredibly talented woman who designed a good portion, actually everything in Black Panther. And I'm just trying to
Mhm.
find this link. Of course, you know, when you need to find a link, you can't find it, but it doesn't matter. What I was going to say, and I will just look for it separately. Ruth Carter is just such an incredibly talented person. You
Mhm.
know, she's been doing costume design for over 30 years. And, you know, she won for best costume design for Black Panther.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's really interesting about how her approach is in regards to making the costumes for Black Panther. We've seen them; they are amazing. And she certainly did deserve that wonderful award she got. It must have been such an endeavor for her to go ahead and recreate everything like that. And I'm just looking to see if I could find those designs for Wakanda Forever, and maybe even we can take a look at them. But recently, Ruth Carter was interviewed by Variety.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's been a lot of chatter, of course, because Wakanda Forever has recently come out. And certainly she has not disappointed when it comes to these incredible designs that she's made for Wakanda Forever, which are just as spectacular. There's a picture of Ruth Carter here, um,
Mhm.
looking badass, right? She's like,
She's a legend. I love her.
yeah, she's got it on, you know, she's like, yes, you know, just in command. She looks stunning here. I had actually joked around with you, Lorena, and said, gee, I wish she would do like a clothing line,
Mhm.
but here Ruth Carter talks about her advice for aspiring costume designers, and she says,
Mm.
be an outside of the box thinker. Now, Lorena, you've seen her designs for Black Panther, for Wakanda Forever. A lot of designs are also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because we
Mhm.
see a lot of the characters from Wakanda in that. What do you think of her designs in general? What were your first thoughts when you first saw those?
Which the ones in Wakanda Forever or Black Panther?
Well, both.
In both, not surprised given how much of a visionary Ruth Carter is. Her designs hit you in the face with how different they are, also how cohesive they are, and how detailed that they are. So I wasn't surprised by the quality, but yet still blown away by her imagination. It seems every film she just does better and better and better when it comes to costume design. That's why she's an absolute household name, and we'll say industry name when it comes to costuming, because costuming is a huge deal. It's a huge deal. If you don't think costuming is not a huge deal, for example, Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Look at the costuming. How many people were talking about the costuming in that film?
Absolutely.
Just, I mean, just look at the detail, how everything is put together, the color schemes, the color palettes, all of it. Just the intricacy of Queen Raimonda's outfit and her headpiece. It's not something that looks like it was cobbled together at the last minute. It looks like something that took extreme amounts of time and attention to detail to put together.
Absolutely. This is years of expertise, and you know, maybe even I'm going to say she's a genius, because I can even conceptualize a lot of what she's done here. This is just kind of scratching the surface what I'm showing here. And certainly, you know, she has been, I think a lot of her designs, I don't know whether these are all of them, but these are people who are inspired, but
Mhm.
might be one of the more ones that we're accustomed to seeing here.
Yes.
And, you know, it's just absolutely stunning. I think that she has a lot to be proud of, and I think that she makes a good point about thinking outside of the out of the box. Um,
Mhm.
One thing I do want to say is that I got a chance to, while I was at LA Comic Con, because you know I'm in LA, I got a
Mhm.
chance to meet one of the Dora Milaje, one of the actresses from the film.
Really?
Yes, yes,
I'm
yes.
excited.
Yes, the character's name is Noble, and not only was she, not only was she in Wakanda Forever and Black Panther,
Mhm.
but she was also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I just want to pull up this thing here if I can. Can I do it? I cannot. But she's amazing. And here's the picture. Here is the picture of the lady who I met.
Oh, wow.
Is this not the coolest thing ever? I'm going to bring it a little bit closer.
So I'm just I'm like geeking out just looking at all the textures and dimensions going on with this.
Yeah,
This
it's
is this is costuming. This is art. And a prime example of when Ruth Carter talks about thinking outside of the box. Thinking outside of the box is what makes you a household name. If you
absolutely.
do what everyone else is doing, it's like, it's kind of it's forgettable.
No, you're right. And this is something that is really important. But the other thing that I noticed was, and I had remembered her from, I remember this actress from Falcon and the Winter Soldier because she was one of the Dora Milaje who escorted the Baron back to Wakanda. And there she is,
Oh,
kind of standing
okay.
next to him. I'm sorry about the glare, but
Okay. No, it's okay.
so
I
I
did.
could get really close. And you can see the guy who plays Baron Nemo, I think Zemo.
Mhm.
Sorry, guys, for the mispronunciation of the character's name, but there he is, and there she is. She was one of the Dora Milaje that escorted,
Nice.
him back, all the
Mhm.
way back to Wakanda, because he was responsible for killing the king. So there was that. But what I wanted to say was this lady was incredible. She took the time to talk to my mother and I. And, she didn't have to do that. She was on the floor of the con, and that's how I saw her. And of course, I'm so excited that I got a chance to meet her. And I'm trying to find her name because I didn't know her name offhand. I didn't know all of the people who starred in it. But what I was going to say is, when I saw these pictures of her in the costumes for the Dora Milaje, I had
Mhm.
to get that autograph picture because I don't think we're going to see anything like this for some time. This was such a spectacular design, and getting back to Ruth Carter's comments about
Mhm.
thinking outside of the box.
Mhm.
I think it's very interesting. And I do have to ask you this question, Lorena. Do you think that costume designers now are playing it a little too safe when it comes to concepts?
I would have to agree. And I think a lot of it has to do with filmmaking done by committee, as opposed to saying costuming is extremely important and we need to give that to someone who is going to make our film stand out. And in order to stand out, you have to take that particular risk that the costuming may not be so great. But if you see the same type of costuming that is in every other movie that's out there, it's no longer an art, it's mass produced and it doesn't put like a stamp on your film. Because how many amazing films have we seen and the costuming is just amazing. So yeah, it used to be, well, I won't say used to be, I guess I will say that because art is about taking risks.
Yes. Yes, it really is about taking risks. And the actress's name is Janisha Adams Ginyard. I kept getting her mixed up with one of the other actresses, but this woman was such a gem.
Mhm.
And then seeing this, and I had to ask her about Ruth Carter. And what's also kind of interesting about Ruth Carter is that right here on the Burnett work, and we actually have part of the interviews from Ruth Carter that Robert did for the
Mhm.
Designing Hollywood show. He has posted it here, guys. So if you do want to see it, there's two clips where Robert actually speaks to Ruth Carter about designing. Certainly something for you guys to check out here on the Burnett work. One of Robert's interviews is two 10-minute clips. He has a longer interview on the
Mhm.
Designing Hollywood videos that are on the John Campea show. So if you're subscribed to John Campea, you'll see, and you can go to his channel there as well. But you can do it right here too, since those clips are here. So I did just want to mention it. And I think that, Ruth Carter giving advice, that's exactly what we do need to hear. Because if she's doing something right, Lorena, she's doing something right. And I love what she's done. It's inspiring. I don't dare even think that I could aspire to what she's able to accomplish, but it sure is something to think about for those of you out there who are listening and are on that level of costume design. We realize how much of an effort it is to accomplish something like that. So congratulations to Ruth Carter, who once again had, such an incredible accomplishment with Wakanda Forever, and getting a chance to hear her thoughts about costume design in general. It is fun to see costume designers who really know how to bring things alive for all of us. So
absolutely.
The next thing that I figured we could talk about, and of course, I certainly would be, I think a lot of us have had so much, speculation about, Avatar and the Way of Water. And, you and I actually did a watch party on your channel for the first Avatar.
Yes.
And it was enjoyable to watch it. And I'm not going to lie, Lorena, I was very honest as to what drew me to watch the first Avatar. And of course, it was Sam Worthington. I love that man. I'm not going to go ahead and say that I don't. I think he's incredible. I think that there's a lot to, he was very young when he did it. I think maybe in his 30s. But I've always been a huge fan of his, ever since I first saw him. So when I found out he was going to be playing Jake Sully in it, I was very, very excited. And of course, that's something that I think he does add something to it. But of course, that was one of the films that made Zoe Saldana a household name. Because many of the other actors were very well known. Sigourney Weaver and Kate Winslet, I think, who was in it, was maybe Kate might not have been in the first one, but Sigourney was already well known. So, she didn't, there wasn't necessarily anything in that she needed to prove or anything like that. So it's going to be opening soon. I guess Friday is the official release date, but you and I are going to see it on Thursday. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And I'm going to be seeing it. I'm still in California. So I'm going to be seeing it with part of Chris Gore's film group that meets on Thursdays. We're going to be at the AMC 16 in Burbank, California. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see it with the group. And, this is, you and I have actually been talking a lot about Avatar. As I said, we watched the first one together. What do you think? What do you think about the idea of the fact that we already know this is not the last film? This is going to be the film. This is going to be 2. There's probably going to be a bunch of these films. We already know they're either in production or whatever state of it happening. It's happening. There's no, it's not going to be stopped. And I always say that Cameron is very ballsy to go ahead and say, yeah, well, I'm going to need 300 million to do this film. When a lot of directors or people who are trying to finance films maybe try to get 20 million, and that might not be easy to do. But Lorena, you are at the parks on a regular basis, and you see the impact that a lot of these franchises have. You know that if a particular franchise, if a particular IP has an attraction at a park, that it's no ordinary IP. And if I'm correct, you recently visited the parks and saw an attraction based on Avatar. Can you please tell us more about what you saw and what did you think of it?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. I will preface this by saying Avatar, the first movie, beautiful, could not stand the plot. There were so many plot holes. I had like a laundry list. Okay, hold on to that thought. The Animal Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World, I want to say, I think it was it 5 years ago? I think it was 5 years ago. Somebody can correct me. I think it's 5 years ago. They actually put in or opened the world of Pandora based on James Cameron's Avatar. Now, people were kind of wondering, why the heck are they going to put Avatar in there? Really, what is that going to do? Well, in addition to a whole world that, I kid you not, looks exactly like Pandora in the movies, there are two attractions. One, which is a really, really boring boat ride, but looks exactly like Avatar with all the bioluminescence and everything. Literally, you're going on that boring boat ride. You actually feel like you were in the movie. There's another ride that's a 3D simulator,
Wow.
which is called Flight of Passage. That whole scene in the Avatar movie where Jake Sully rides a banshee, that whole
Mhm.
thing is recreated. And it's so good that, with me not even seeing Avatar, when I finally saw it, I'm like, that's exactly like the attraction. That attraction has some of the longest waits in the park, but it is really that good. I kid you not. The ride is, it's so many things that go on, and literally you feel like you just dropped into the movie, and that's because James Cameron had very, very, very tight creative control on it. And he also worked with one of the most amazing Imagineers that Disney has ever had, which unfortunately he is not there anymore, and that would be Joe Rohde. So with all of that together, the world of Avatar literally made Animal Kingdom more than just a half-day park. There are people that go there, like myself, who specifically will spend a significant amount of time over in Pandora, the world of Avatar. So just like this gorgeous photo that has up, that is exactly what it looks like.
Well, it's I know you made a video of it, Lorena.
Mhm,
You visited it. You were live from the park and you showed us some incredible scenes from it. And I have to agree with you, Lorena. Some of what you showed, I didn't watch the whole thing, but some of what I saw looks exactly like what we saw in the film. Incredibly true to the world of Pandora, which felt very original to me. I had never seen anything like the world of Pandora. I thought
mhm,
it felt like it was another planet. It felt like it was another place. And of course, the Navi, do feel different, at least to me.
mhm.
I thought it was very imaginative. And I can see how it could be perfect for a park like this, especially since there are a lot of illuminated effects. And these
Yes.
illuminated effects, and you can kind of see on the screen here, this beautiful glowing colors of purple and blue,
Mhm.
and these, it's not a super bright light. It's in a dimmed environment, but it's
Yeah,
bright
it's
enough that it feels like it's glowing. And
it looks alive when you see it and you walk, and you walk through it. It's very, I know the word alive probably seems like I'm overstating it, but it's not. It's not super bright. The light looks as if there's life within it. Exactly how you see it in the movie is exactly how they've recreated it.
wow, well, that's definitely something to look forward to because it was done beautifully in the film. And of course, technically speaking, this would be the first physical effect of it, because I believe most of what we saw in the film was digitally created, correct?
Yes, digitally created. And speaking of practical, I believe, was it the boat ride? Was it the boat ride? I think it was the boat ride actually. No, that's a darn shame. I can't remember. One of them actually has a full size replica of a Navi
Oh my gosh, I would
avatar.
love to see that, to really get a
Yes.
sense of how big they are, to really understand what the Navi look like, and to kind of see them in person. I didn't know that. That sounds so exciting. It really does put you in the sense that you are experiencing Pandora. That is so exciting to know. I didn't know that, Lorena.
Yeah, it's
I'm
in Flight of Passage. Yeah, you walk through the lab, which literally looks like a dead-on recreation of the lab from the movie, and then you see in one of those stasis tanks, you actually see like the Navi avatar. It's incredible.
Oh my gosh. Well, guys, definitely go to Lorraine's channel and you can see the video there where she goes to Pandora at Disney World, the attraction there. And she's there for a while. Like you see a lot of it. Certainly I have to give you credit, Lorraine, for picking up a lot of the light. Which isn't always easy to pick up in low light conditions. Those lights, I remember in the movie, kind of represented the synapses almost and the way that they
Yes.
communicated with one another. And one of my favorite lines in Pandora is when Sigourney Weaver talks about how they have more connections than in the human brain. And
Mhm.
that really grabbed me in regards to just having this fantasy or this way to communicate where they are able to do that. It was absolutely remarkable. So just seeing these practical effects, as you said, here, and now this is really maybe the first time that it actually has been created, Lorena, for people to see. So they're
Mhm.
capable of actually doing the physical aspect of it as well. It must look incredible, guys. Do check out Lorena's channel for that video. And then if you're lucky enough to be in Florida to go to Walt Disney World, check out the Pandora World of Avatar, maybe either before or after you see Avatar of the Way of Water. Regardless, it's so incredible looking from what I've seen. And thank you, Lorena, for going there and sharing that with
Oh,
us.
you're welcome. I'll actually be there, tomorrow, actually.
Excellent. So guys, do check out Lorena's channel. She's going to be there live, correct, Lorena?
Yes, I will be there live.
Excellent. So we're looking forward to that. I certainly am excited for that. And of course, the Avatar is we're going on Thursday. I think you can go on Thursday, but the official
Mhm.
opening date is Friday. It does star, of course, Sam Worthington and Joey Saldana again, and Sigourney Weaver also joins the cast again.
Mhm.
We also have, who else is there? Um, Stephen Lang, Kate Winslet, Jeff Curtis, Chi Powder is in this. Um, Wow. And
Hmm.
so many more actors who we all recognize and know over the years. This is really going to be something very interesting to see the family that Jake is now has of his own, to see, this sort of thing. I think this is one of the most positive films. And there's been a little speculation about what would happen. I think that the Navi haven't shown us all of their powers yet, Lorena. I think
Mm.
that there's a lot more to being able to have power collectively, being able to communicate thoughts and
Mhm.
experiences in that way. It isn't just fiber optics. It isn't just shooting the messages. There's a little bit more to it. We know Sigourney Weaver's in there, right? Her essence is there.
Yes. Mhm.
And it kind of reminds me a little bit of in Wakanda, how they're able to communicate with people who have passed. Um, I think that is pretty important, and I think people enjoy that, the notion of being able to have a conversation with someone when you need it, for people that you care about. The Navi certainly are a caring people. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about them. I haven't looked at the plot, Lorena, so I'm sorry. I know that the first plot was maybe not up to par, but let's hope we learn a little bit more about the Navi and we get wowed by what we're about to see. But certainly there was a lot of effort put into this film. James Cameron really hasn't let us down, right, Lorena?
He hasn't let us down with respect to visual spectacle. I will definitely say that. The first Avatar was such a hit in part because of technological risks and technological achievements that had never been done before. So it'll be interesting to see in this film exactly one, how he's been able to level up because now CGI is everywhere. A lot of it done badly, but but CGI is available, and what he does with the story. What is the story that is going to make us interested in finding out more about the Na'vi and what happened with Jake Sully? So remains to be seen. It's 3 hours, folks.
Yeah, make
3
sure
hours.
you know.
Pee before you go.
That's right. Absolutely. So we are certainly looking forward to that one. And the last thing, wow, we're almost near the end of the show. This goes so fast, Lorena. I wanted to talk about is obviously James Gunn. Now, um,
Mm,
James Gunn is remarkable. He's one of those um, he's one of those people who wants to share things, and what he wants to share is factual information.
Mm.
And, I think that we're at a this just different age where, I think there's nothing wrong with speculation. I'm one of those people who speculates. I'm not going to lie. I speculate
Mhm.
as well. This
Yeah.
is certainly fine to speculate. It's certainly fine to do those things.
Mhm.
Um, but we are kind of witnessing a very interesting age in the sense of where I think that having respect for one another is so important.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
and here in this article, they say, we're talking about some events that happened about feelings towards some other working professionals in the industry, in particular James Gunn, and some messages he had online. And I think this
Mhm.
is really important because sometimes people do send out messages and they can be misinterpreted. But I think even the Hollywood Reporter here talks about how, at least I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter, they
It's
even mentioned that they had speculated some things that were not maybe not true. And then they were very clear about it. I think
Mhm.
even in this article where they say something about it, where they reported something and perhaps that might not have been accurate. And so, I think it's very interesting that as a news organization, gee, I sure hope this is the right one. Um, where they are kind of having this responsibility, especially some of these trades where we kind of go to them to see if
Mhm.
something's released officially, um, where they report something and it may not be completely accurate. So, to back up and say, okay, we speculated about this, but that's not what was happening. This is what's
Mhm.
happening. I think it's very interesting because there is so much interest in this right now. Everybody wants to know what's going on with Superman. Everyone wants to know what's going on with this production and with James Gunn and what his role is and how he feels about things. This is it's on paparazzi level. I mean, we haven't necessarily seen anybody with, photographers kind of like it's staking out at his house and trying to get into his whatever. But,
Right.
the amount of speculation about what's going on, I find really interesting. And, I think that we're lucky when anybody decides to go ahead and communicate and give us information about where they are. But he was very honest about it. We're still in this development stage and
Mhm.
it's going to take time to figure out, what the next step is because it's not something, if this was a year after, let's say Man of Steel, let's say it was the next year,
Mhm.
the answer of what you would do in production wise would be answer A. But now that it's been so many years, it may take some time to figure out what the best approach is. So my kind of question about this is, I think we're very lucky to have somebody like James Gunn who will respond and just say, look, we're going to clear the air. This is what it is.
Mhm.
We don't want people to, kind of have the false information. But sometimes, I think some of the ability to go ahead and communicate with people like this, some people can get carried away, maybe over passionate, whatever you want to call it. But
Mhm.
between you and I just think that the notion of having the ability to communicate with somebody, that you do have to sometimes hold back when you're not quite sure about, a situation. What did you think about this? Obviously, this fan was exuberant. I'm going to be nice about it. Exuberant about the interpretation of some of these comments. After all, this was not an interview. This fan was just commenting on something else that he said. What do you think of the
Mhm.
tone of, first of all, being just, we're lucky that Gunn even responded and wanted to make this known, but also, a fan who may be overzealous, may feel they have to say something, gets excited in the moment. Um, do you think that we've reached a point where, maybe Twitter comments do need to be turned off?
That is interesting that you say that. Let's turn the Wayback Machine back like about 10 years or so before the immediacy, really. I mean, Twitter was out there, but it was more like, let's share cat pictures. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. I found this picture. I found this video. I got this news feed. That's pretty much what it was. You didn't see a lot of celebrities or industry people or studio people hanging out on Twitter. Eventually, when that started to happen, and they do not have, these people used to have PR persons in the middle to work with. I know back in some of, let's say, in my Star Trek fandom days or whatever, when I tried to get in touch with an actor, guess what? I had to go through their agent or through their PR person, and then they would get back to me. There wasn't this, hey, I'm going to go on Twitter and, and contact you. So that immediacy part was gone. But when you would go to conventions and these folks would get to meet said people face to face, that's where you would have this sort of thing that would happen. Some people who were overzealous, some people who were just clueless, some people where they just got nervous and it came out wrong. So I think this type of situation was always there in fandom. You know how it is in fandom. You have the 80% of the fandom that's kind of like, we're just glad they're here, and the 20% of the fandom that they're just a little too overzealous, and they kind of miss the human element of the person that they're talking to. So I think with Twitter, I don't think it's a good idea to have the comments turned off. I would say by Twitter. However, there is this lovely little invention, and it's called a mute button, and I absolutely flipping love it. So I would say for James Gunn, and he probably is anyway, probably muting some people. I would say use that. People have the right to say what they want, but not necessarily the right to be heard for that. So I really like the fact that James Gunn, number one, does interact with fans, you know, in the first place, because honestly, he really doesn't have to. But he's here, and of course, like you were saying, people are excited. They want to know what's going on with Superman. James Gunn, he wasn't Marvel, now he's at DC, and people want to know what's the next thing. But with social media, everything is like at lightning speed now. It used to be a movie was announced, you didn't hear anything for like a year or two until it showed up, in Empire magazine or something else, or on Sci-Fi Channel, something like that. But now everything's sped up. So I think that with everything being sped up that way, I think some people tend to forget that these industry people are human too, and sometimes you kind of dial it back and give a little common courtesy. Just saying.
Yeah, no, this is a very good point, and this is exactly, I agree with you 100% on that. Here they are actually making the statement. The Hollywood Reporter says that their story about DC Studios published Wednesday reported that Patty Jenkins' version of Wonder Woman 3 had been scuttled and raised the
Hmm.
possibility that Cavill could be done as the Man of Steel. And so they admit that they speculated, although I don't think that they went too far and speculated. And I think that this is what they do. But I do think it's very interesting to look at this to a point where sometimes the speculation can go a little further than what it probably should go.
Hmm.
And it is true. There's so much. To be honest with you, Lorena, one other kind of interesting thing about this is how quiet it has been up to this point this year. If you had asked us 6 months ago about this, we would have said, well, nothing's happening. There was nothing happening. This is a very interesting year where now we are getting these updates. Now we are finding out more information. Now all of us are pretty confident that this stuff is going to happen. We're hearing it from Gunn. If things keep going on course, maybe in
Hmm.
a few years, there's going to be another Superman appearance in a movie, and perhaps that will be his own film. But I think it was important for the Hollywood Reporter to go ahead and say that they speculated about something that was just pure speculation and perhaps not fact. So I think it's very interesting. I think that if we go forward and speculate, that's one thing, but challenging an executive directly in facts, it might be a whole nother category altogether, Lorena. Um,
Yeah, that's don't claim to know more than the person who actually has their hands in it and working on things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think these comments on it, honestly, he doesn't really have so much time to respond to everybody, but made a point to do this. I
Hmm.
think he didn't want things to get out of hand in the speculation front. And so when he says, although this first month at DC has been fruitful, building the
Hmm.
next 10 years, Lorena, building the next 10 years, Lorena,
Hmm.
that put a huge smile on my face. And we're still just beginning. That means they have a plan, Lorena. That means that
Hmm.
they're in for the long run. That means that they know, that, it's not going to take 5 minutes to do this. Um, it shows that they care about this. This is exciting. For me, just even hearing that part, that's the type of dedication to doing something like this. This is hard work. We're expecting the best from him because he's so great at what he does. I'm just absolutely thrilled, even though what he said there doesn't actually tell us anything specifically. Even hearing something like that reaffirmation, it feels really good. Um, we don't always see that from someone. And, I think that he is pretty much telling us he's committed to this. It's a lot to be excited about, Lorena, but we do know that like I said, since it's not just 1 year after Man of Steel, that it's
Hmm.
going to have to be rebuilt. It's a very different world. A lot has happened. Technically speaking, if it's not picking up right after that, and if there is a gap of time, if they choose to do that, things are going to change. So we will see changes going forward with these IPs for the better. I think it's going to be better now, since we can move past some things that may have happened, past some of the timeline things that, maybe don't even have to be focused on as much because time has happened. So I'm excited about it. But having respect for these creators is something that is very important. And just also having respect for your fellow um community members in the fandom as well. So there is.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of like kind of a little bit of that back when you're interacting with them. Of course, it's like you say, be assertive, definitely, to make your opinion known, but talk as if, you're speaking to, I would say, at least have some civility when it comes to that. I know for me, I'm excited to hear that there is a 10-year plan, although I'm kind of more like a wait and see type of realist, because while it's definitely good that they want to do a 10-year plan, because I think some of these movies just getting thrown out there just to throw them out there is not necessarily a great way to go. I know myself as a normie, I wasn't too thrilled with Zack Snyder's films. Man of Steel, not enough time, not enough wine, let me put it that way. Although he did sell Ben Affleck to me as Batman, but as someone who I'm not very thrilled with how the MCU has gone, especially with Phase 4, and considering how much I absolutely loved the first Wonder Woman, loved that movie. It was amazing. I'm hoping that they will take the time, like they say, to do this 10-year plan, which is not an easy thing to do, and give us something that truly is gangbusters. So, folks, this is cliche, but trust the process and let the proof be in the pudding.
Exactly, especially with the track record we've been seeing recently. There hasn't been that ability to rely on IPs that we normally rely on.
Yeah.
So, we have to be cautious for people out there. It's something to think about. You guys with children have to watch whatever comes out first before you take your kids
Yeah.
theater, which is what I would advise. And if you're an adult, Unless it's something like Violent Night, go ahead and listen to what other people have to say and then form an opinion after you see it. But just be careful when you're going to see different things. I think that we won't have that problem with James Gunn. I think that when he says that we're going to see a specific thing, it's going to be what it purports to be, what he's promising us. So that's how I'm looking at this, but it will be different. It's going to be different. Unfortunately, for those of you who were expecting a continuation of that same thing, I don't think it could be. I don't think we can continue with that, with previous, sort of the Snyderverse sense.
No, they're gonna have to reboot that they're gonna have to burn it down and build back up.
Yeah. And that's okay because I'm very fond of the Snyderverse. So I felt like we got a lot considering, the way that Hollywood is. It isn't always easy to make a mark. And I think a mark was made and there's still a lot to enjoy from it with the extended versions, with, different versions of those films. So I'm kind of satisfied with it. Would I have liked to have seen it continue immediately after that? Yes. After the last film, yes, I would have liked to have seen more, but circumstances didn't work out that way. And we're lucky for what we got. Um, Trust me, guys, we are lucky for what we got because the way things had changed in Hollywood behind the scenes. It was difficult to make anything, honestly, Lorena. I think that there was quite a lot of pushback on just normal stuff that would have been gone through, that would have been
Mhm.
pushed through. So it's a miracle we got what we got, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm looking forward to this new era. It's going to be spectacular. Cavill's going to have input on it, from what he said.
I hope he does. I really do, because Henry Cavill is Superman,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
saying this as a normie.
Mm-hmm. And the excitement around this has been an incredible year. When I think back at January of this year, where it seemed like this was never going to happen, and look where we are now, Lorena. I'm pleased as punch. I don't mind waiting a few years. I can wait a few years.
Yeah,
um,
wait, take the time and do it the right way.
mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Exactly, Lorena. I couldn't have said it any better. And here we are at the end of the program. It always goes by so
It
fast.
sure does, right?
Guys, where what I was going to say, please subscribe to Lorena's channel. If you liked today's program, please subscribe to my channel, Positive Fandom, and of
Mhm.
course continue to watch us here on the Burnett Network. Lorena, where can people find you?
Well, folks, you can find me on Twitter causing all kinds of mischief and doing the weeping and gnashing of teeth about hearing yet another anime getting a live action adaptation by Netflix. You can also find me on Instagram. And of course, you can find me on YouTube where I do various live streams, videos, quite a few with her as well, with me. So please do, when you get a chance, check out my channel. And thank you guys all for being here.
Absolutely, Lorena. It's such a pleasure to have you here as always, guys. You can find me on my channel, Positive Fandom. So if you haven't liked and subscribed to Positive Fandom, please do, where you can find more content just like this. You
Mhm.
can also find me streaming with Lorena on our show on her Twitch channel on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, called Toxic Male Appreciation. We also do watch parties together as well. So do check those out. And on Mondays, you can find us here on Ladies of the
Mhm.
PBS at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking everything in the fandom. But I also have my Sunday brunch show on Sundays at 10:30
Yes.
a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do all the parlay in the fandom. If you are a creator, stop by so we can promote your work there, guys. You could sometimes also find me on the 1/6 Scale Man Network on either Say What or Uncivilized Scoundrels. And of course, you can always find me here on the Burnett Network, streaming with Robert Meyer Burnett on our show, Midnight Musings. Guys, there's so much more to come in this new year. I know that we are close to the holidays here, but I just
Mhm.
want to thank all of you for stopping by. And of course, Tom Jr. Jackson, I believe you are the only moderator. I did just want to thank Lord Toth. I think he was here last week and I didn't know he was moderating. So I do want to thank Lord Toth. I know it's a week too late, but thank you so much for moderating when you did. And thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson. We are all good people. Tom also has his own channel, so check that out as well, guys.
Yes.
And for everybody out there, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always do remember to please be kind. Bye, everybody.